course online. I mean, one course in person at least, or maybe more. And if like Harvard and MIT and a lot of universities have already announced before this announcement came, USCIS announcement, that they're going to do everything online this semester, this coming fall semester. So which basically means that foreign students will be badly affected. So foreign students might be affected in the sense, if they don't take at least one course or more than one course in person, they will fall out of status. So they will have to leave the country, or they will have to transfer to another university, which offers a hybrid of online and, in person or all in person, or they have to change their status. And for those people who are outside the country, they cannot re-enter unless they meet the requirements. So that is what is happening right now. That is the situation right now. So in addition to that, I'm going to just keep on talking until someone asks me questions. So in addition to that, what's happening is one bright spot, one silver lining is that Harvard and MIT have already filed a lawsuit. So they filed a lawsuit the next day. The press release came out on Monday, they filed a lawsuit on Tuesday. Or it was a Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't remember. So the next day they filed a lawsuit. So there is some hope. I think the hope that we can derive is that universities have a lot of backing. They have a lot of support from the Congress as well. There's a lot of money involved. So at least we small people don't have to fight this. I think the universities will fight it on our behalf. And also, if you look at the regulation, first thing is you can poke a lot of holes into it because it's a temporary regulation, and you can only publish a temporary regulation if there is a strong reason for it. And we don't see a strong reason. In fact, it's the opposite. CDC is issuing notices and asking us to maintain social distancing and giving us guidelines. And the USCIS guidelines is completely the opposite of what CDC is saying. So that itself is a reason to go to court, because opening universities will not only cause damage to foreign students, but also local students, everyone, because they can't have a different process for foreign students and a different one for local students. And they will not be able to do all online. If foreign students are not able to attend, they will be forced to open and do it in person, because no university can survive without foreign students. So what's going to happen is pretty much they will be forced to open and cause a public hazard, a public health hazard. And that's against public policy, and that's against the law even. So this is a huge thing for the courts to look into, and that is one reason. That reason by itself is enough for courts to rescind this regulation. So I think our biggest hope right now are the court systems. So that's I think that's what I wanted to say. I covered a lot of it, but I think the rest of it we can cover if there are any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Prashanthi Reddy Garu. I think the proclamation insight that you've provided is very helpful to everyone here. I think we do have some questions from the audience. I can go ahead and read it out. I think Shravya says, what if my classes go online in the middle of the semester? So probably she has classes in person right now. And what if the classes go online during the middle of the semester?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to wait until the questions came, because the questions are very intelligent usually, and we can get a lot of information from answering those questions. So that's a very good question. So what's happening for a lot of students is, even if they want to take, even if there's a hybrid situation where the university is offering some online and some in person, what's happening is that they've already selected their subjects, because they're required to do that in advance. And the other courses that now they certainly have to change the courses, but those courses may not be available because they've already been taken. So I've heard in a lot of universities that local students are actually giving up their classes for foreign students so that the foreign students can meet the requirement of taking in-person classes. So that's the thing. So a lot of these classes are already taken up because, they might be in high demand, and that's just the situation. That's how it is. And the second thing, as Shravya, right? Shravya just mentioned, is that then what happens if in the middle of the semester, because the courses that you keep taking, first thing is in the next semester that might change, and you might suddenly find yourself taking not meeting the requirements, or as Shravya said, in the middle of the course itself, they might decide that it's too much of a health hazard and it's too large a class and they can't do it in person, and therefore, even if one person in the class gets COVID, they're going to stop the classes. So they might decide in the middle of the class not to do it. So then what happens? So basically, as I was saying earlier, one thing I didn't mention is one solution is that you can ask for a reduction in course load. So a reduction in course load is something that is allowed in the present law. You have to take permission from your university. So you don't need to take that course this semester, but you take it next semester. But in order for that reduction in course load, and also they said it in the press release itself that one remedy is reduction in course load. So you have to take permission from the university beforehand. They have to grant permission, and it's possible to reduce your course load and still maintain your immigration status. So that's one important thing. The other thing is, of course, you can transfer, but that's not, that might not be the best situation, because you might have already paid your, whatever your fees, and then transferring is not easy. And I'm sure you wanted to go to this particular university. So it's not just about getting an education, it's about where you get the education also, right? So it's not the best option, but transferring is possible. And then you can also change status. That's also not good situation, but if all else fails, then you change status to a visitor's visa. You skip your semester and then go for your next semester. Or, which seems to be the best option right now, is you just leave the country and you take courses online. A lot of foreign students have already left for the summer. So most probably some of them will opt to just stay back in India and take all their courses online. And they will still be able to get their credits, and they'll still be able to, complete the semester, and there's no immigration rules if you're outside the country. So that's something to consider also.
Yeah, thank you, Prashanthi garu. Looks like Shravya was saying that this is her last semester.
Right. So another thing to add, if it's your last semester, then you're allowed to take a reduced course load. That is a reason also to take a reduced course load. That's one of the biggest reasons. When you finished all your courses and you have only one course left, you're allowed to take a reduced course load. So maybe that will help you.
Yeah, thank you for the great advice. I don't see any other questions here. Does anyone want to speak up and ask a question? You can unmute yourself.
Rajni, you can.
So let me see if I can pull up some questions. I think there's one more question from Giri. Does this affect day one CPT students?
So day one CPT students already have an issue, right? In the sense that we know that it's an issue to take day one CPT anyway. So when you're filing a change of status from an F student status to a H1, they send out RFEs saying that, oh, you took CPT on day one, blah, blah, blah. So did your university require it? Show us proof. Show us that the CPT is related to your degree and was required at that time for completion of your credits. So there's questions that arise anyway with day one CPT, but this situation does not affect the issues that we had before. They still remain. Day one CPT is always an issue. And then you have to always remember that CPT itself is an issue nowadays, as per the new interpretation. If you've already done OPT, you've completed OPT in your master's and you're doing maybe a second master's. If you take CPT, they're saying that you can't do CPT and OPT if it's the same degree level. If you do a PhD, that's different. But if it's again another master's, they're interpreting it in a different way now, and they're saying you can't do CPT because you've already used up the 1 year of OPT, and it's the same level of degree, so you can't have two OPTs or a CPT and OPT. So that could be an effect, an issue also in your case.
Thank you again for the answer. Are there any other questions from anyone else? Otherwise, I have a few questions and I can call them out. If you would like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask the question if you hesitate typing the question here in the chat window. If there are any questions related to green card processing, family-based green card processing, or employment-based or future green card questions and policies related to Trump, does anyone have any questions related to green card? Please feel free to ask Prashanthi Reddy garu.
A quick question about the students. For them, would it be possible, like, can there be a petition for the Congress to act on this one, or is it out of scope? Like, can they put some intention in this one, like when students are not able to attend their school and all this headache? And of course, people can always attend a university from like a distance education online, but the point is to get the education here and the internships and get into an H1, right? So given that things are going, if you come back in the final semester, probably, you know, immigration would say, probably do this from home too. So probably, I don't know if that's a great idea, but can Congress do something? Can everybody do some petition?
So Vinay, the two parts. One is I wanted to comment about it being a distance education degree. Actually, it isn't. So it's going to be considered to be a regular degree. So in the past, at other webinars, I've been asked, will this affect the H1B master's cap if they do, the degree, they complete their degree from India, because they're not allowed to do it. They're not able to do it anymore. Worst case scenario, suppose the next year they have to do everything online. So your master's is 2 years, so 1 year you're doing the whole thing online. Will it be considered to be a distance education course, in which case you don't, it's a completely different deal, right? When you do distance education, it's not, doesn't have the same credentials as doing a regular degree. And even from the job point of view, from the master's cap point of view, when you're filing a H1. But this, I don't think this will be considered to be a distant education degree. I think it'll be considered to be a regular degree, even if you're doing it from outside the country. But so I think we need not worry on that front, because, COVID has not happened before in our lifetimes. We haven't seen anything like this. So people understand that there are unusual circumstances, and it's not only foreign students that are doing it, but local students are also doing the same thing. And the same thing is happening for schools as well. Elementary school to high school. So everything is happening distance education. So I don't think it's going to be classified as that and put in that bucket. So I think that we don't need to worry about. But with reference to will Congress do something about it, I think it's more likely and faster if we go to court. And the court is likely to do something about it, because in Congress, even if they try, it'll be a gridlock. As you know, the House, and the Senate, two different parties. So there will be a gridlock there. So rather than trying to get something done there, I think it's just faster and easier to get something done through the court. And Harvard and MIT have asked for an injunction. In fact, that's the first relief they've asked for, which pretty much means they're asking for this regulation to be suspended temporarily until the hearing goes on and the merits of the case can be looked into. So they're asking for an immediate suspension of the regulation. So I think that I'm hoping will have more effect than going to Congress, which is a long drawn out process. And as you know, now elections are coming up, so no one is really interested in passing any bills. Nothing much is happening in Congress except for the sanctioning of the money, and that's the relief packages that are happening. So I think the courts are a better bet.
Yep, great. And 2 universities are fighting for that. So yeah, great.
Yes, and hopefully more universities will join.
Yeah, and then the universities are the biggest losers. I mean, foreign students are the people who bring maximum money. And then if they're not going to have them, I mean, even here, universities want an out-of-state student more because they're going to pay them more.
Right.
So I think they should really fight for their money.
Right.
Now.
So Harvard has 5,000 students, foreign students.
That's a great.
So yeah, they have a lot at stake, and some departments will just close down if there are no foreign students. They'll have to close down the department. So I think there's a lot at stake here. I don't think universities will allow this to happen. I don't know how they will withstand it if they allow it to happen financially.
Thank you. Thanks for the good work.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question.
Ajaya.
Attorney,
Hello.
Hi, Andy. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, Prashanthi, this is Ajaya from New Jersey.
Yes, Ajaya.
I was just thinking, probably this is not a bad thing for foreign students, because given the situation, like, even if they are here, they won't be able to work, a lot of other issues, like, it'll be really difficult for them to, survive, things like that. So, and then if they go back to their the country, to their birth country, and then if they can get education online and get the same certificate, like how they are getting as if they are attending physically, then don't you think it's a good thing for the students?
So Ajay, online education is not the same as in person. We all know that. That one cannot replace the other. And these students are paying like that, in these big universities, they're paying 30,000 per semester. They pay a lot of money to get this education. And we know remote learning has had its challenges, and they're trying to improve now. They're demanding for, these remote learning tools to be improved so it can be more interactive. But, remote learning has its own challenges. And the whole idea of, so when you go to campus and you go to university, it's not just you're getting an education, you're also building a network that will help you for your future, right? You're building, you're getting to know other people. Especially if you go to a good university. A lot of people go to good universities simply to build a network at a certain level, especially the masters and the MBAs, people like that. So I think that will be completely lost. You don't know who your classmate is. You won't have a fraternity. You won't have, so that aspect is completely lost. And also the fact that, Zoom learning is not that interactive, especially if there are 200 students in a class. In a Zoom class, it's impossible and there's no one-on-one, there's no conferences. So it's hard. And then in addition to that, Ajay, I think this is a temporary phenomenon. I would not think of it as a permanent or going to happen for years together. So I don't think it'll affect jobs. Maybe in the near future, yes, it will. But already, the IT sector, and a lot of our people who come for masters are IT, has not been affected as much as the other sectors have. In fact, there's no recession in the IT sector.
Right.
So it won't affect getting jobs in the near future. It might, but for the future it won't. And there's OPT, and there's people are given 1 year OPT, and so yes, there will be some challenges, but I think we shouldn't write off this country and the opportunities that it gives us. I think we should still strive to get those opportunities, especially if we're paying in dollars and so much of tuition. I think it makes sense to, try and come back and, work and not just do online courses.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Prashanthi garu, I think the aspect of why it is important to be in class, I really can see the value of it compared to having Zoom classes. It's never the same. I have both of my kids at Harvard University, and they both are very, very disappointed that they will have to take classes online and it will never be the same. They're going to lose out on, making friends, the network. As you said, many students go to good colleges just to also build the great network, even with the faculty and the deans, and who can write good, recommendation letters for jobs or other opportunities, startups and things like that. So all those are very hard-fetched when you will have to take classes online. So that's a great answer that you provided. I think our next question is from Vamshi. He says he has questions regarding the H-1B cap application. Vamshi Garu, do you want to go ahead and detail the question a little bit?
Yeah. Hello, Prashanthi Garu.
Hi, Vamshi.
I'm Vamshi. Yeah, hi. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Actually, I'm a F1 student. Currently, I'm in a day one CPT school. Actually, my employer has applied for my H1B for this fiscal year 2021, and it was selected in the lottery. And they have sent my application packet to USCIS to Vermont Center, but the timeline is the filing timeline is between April 1st and June 30th. Has to be. But my packet was delivered on July 2nd, and my employer has sent my application packet on June 24th. Due to FedEx issues, it was delayed and delivered on July 2nd. What my question is, will the USCIS will consider my application, or will it be returned back to my employer?
So Vamshi, that's hard to say. I think they're going to decide on a case-by-case basis, but at least there is something in the law which says that they will consider it, because they have said, though June 30th is the deadline, they have clearly stated that any applications received after June 30th will be considered. And if there is, the reason can be given for delay, which was, out of the hands of the petitioner, then it can be considered. So we don't know how they're going to treat applications sent after June 30th, but they have at least said it, and they didn't need to. But they did say that even applications submitted after June 30th will be considered on a case-by-case basis, but they have not given any more information. So we have to wait and see. And your case, is definitely something that is completely out of your hands. It's a FedEx, or a mail delay. So that's not something that you could have helped. So I think you have a good case. So if they provide that concession for anyone, it should be for cases like yours. So wait and see.
Okay, actually I've spoken with about this issue with my employer, and they are speaking in a irresponsible manner. They are saying that it's not our fault, it's fault with the FedEx, and we have sent it in your petition on time, but I asked them to send it in the overnight shipping, but they have sent it in the regular servers. This is the
they sent it by ground. They should have just done it FedEx. And you always have to use courier services for USCIS. The postal services is very dicey.
Yeah, actually they have used the FedEx service, but they have used the regular shipping instead of
FedEx ground. Right,
FedEx
ground.
ground.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that. But what can you say? I mean, let's just wait and see. I mean, I know you must be really anxious, because getting into the cap itself, getting your lottery, your number picked is so hard. And then now that you got it, you must be really disheartened by the fact that because of FedEx delivery, it was not delivered on time. But I just wait. Don't come to any conclusions right now. Just wait. Maybe it'll be accepted.
Thank you, sir.
I see there's one more question. Rahul, did you have a question, Andy?
Yeah, thank you, Rajan. So Prashanthi Garu, I have a broader question. So we never know what happens with this pandemic thing. So we never know when it's going to stop. So it might affect the students who will be coming in the next semesters too, right? So there will be the I-120s issued, and all those things might happen even in the next semester. We never know if they keep making the policy like they only go online, So because like in the couple of months ago, like where the most of the students who were affected with the fake universities were the students from Telugu states. Right. If the same thing happens, like if a fake universities start coming up saying that they are online, so what if like the students, how can we avoid that, right? So as you said, like we'll be paying in dollars. So fake universities come up and they start issuing the I-20s, like thinking it online. So is there something that as a TDF or as any other organization that we can help the students for coming? Like,
yeah, so there's something good about regulations also. There's a reason why they do it. And there's a reason why they're prohibiting classes from taking place online, right? Because of all these people who take advantage of students and the fake universities and all that. That's why by regulation itself, you're allowed to only take one course online and not do more than one course online. And it was because of this pandemic that they gave a concession and they allowed all the courses to be online. And we have to see in the future, maybe as you say, if they win the court case or they decide not, we don't know what will happen. Maybe they'll allow all courses to be online. But I don't think this is going to be for, how long is COVID-19 going to last? It's not going to last for years. So even the 1918, the Spanish flu lasted for a year. So looking at it that way, yes, it's not going to go away completely, but it's going to become something that we will be able to live with, at least by next March or next fall, right? But that's a different story. We can talk about that for hours together. And we talk about that in all our social gatherings, and anytime we meet anyone, that's the first thing we talk about, right? What is going to happen? What is the future? What's with COVID? What's happening? So I think it'll mostly affect this semester, and I don't think it'll affect the semesters after that. In the sense, there might still be some social distancing, but they'll do it in a staggered manner. It'll be less and less. Maybe they'll do some big classes which have a lot of students, and if the virus, the antidote comes by then, the vaccine, then we should be okay. But it's hard to tell, right, Rahul, as to what's going to happen next semester. But your question was how to avoid getting into the trap of these fake universities.
Yeah, the reason is like even before, like even if they are allowed to come here, that is where they were able to make money out of it. And if it is virtual completely, then is it not like a...
So no one, first of all, I don't think anyone is going to pay that kind of money if they know right from the beginning that the entire course is virtual. Number one. Number two, if the entire course is going to be virtual, so you're talking about 2 years of virtual learning, that's distance education. Those universities are already there, but nobody joins them because there's no credibility for those universities, as you said. And because the degree that you get from a distance education degree is not the same as online. So when you go for jobs, it's not going to be the same thing. So I think, that situation which you're talking about won't happen because, people are already skeptical about going for a complete master's degree, which is online.
Yeah. Thank you, Prashanthi Garu. I think our next question is from Sandeep. Sandeep Garu, do you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Hello, Prashanthi Garu.
Hello, Sandeep.
So I have one question. I hope more and more colleges, join in the case against the guidelines. But my question is something. This immigration, mass deportation of immigration has been an issue, and with international students of chance of getting deported from United States, that affects India directly, I believe. So 8 lakh people from Kuwait, that's something brewing, and with this, so do you think Ministry of External Affairs from Indian government, if students approach Ministry of External Affairs and play the diplomacy card, would it work in any way? That's my question. If at all it works, should students go and approach Indian government saying that, activate the diplomacy card?
Right, Sandeep, and that's, I think, the same thought occurred to a lot of people. And I was in a webinar with Andhra Pradesh government, somebody related to the IT department, I think head of the IT department. And the same question was asked to him. And because a lot of students are from either Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, right? So like, I don't know, 70% of the students maybe. And he basically said that the chief minister was talking to because on the state level, they can't do anything really. So it has to be
at the national level.
In the national level. So they are talking to the states that are affected the most, like Mumbai, the big cities, are talking to the prime minister about this issue. But, you know, all said and done, to the present administration, I don't think Indian diplomacy matters as much as the politics of the nation itself, right? The politics that are going on right now, and the fact that it is election year, all this is driven by politics. It is not driven by any, and this is the truth, you know, no matter it doesn't matter who you support or don't support. The fact of the matter right now is that it's all driven by politics. It's election year is coming, and it's what is happening now. It's pretty much an anti-immigration sentiment. You see one thing after the other happening. So this is nothing but, you know, and we've always seen that, right? People who have been here for a while, we see the doors opening and closing, and policies keep changing up and down depending on which government comes in, what is happening. So the COVID is pretty much being used as a tool to implement that kind of policy right now. There is no reason for it. Is there any reason to ask universities to open up, you know, when COVID is happening? You know, it makes no sense. So there is no public policy behind this, you know, regulation. There is no benefit to anyone behind this regulation. There is no benefit to the economy behind this regulation, and the previous regulations also. So, you know, if it is not a reasonable thing to do, then I don't think they will listen to anyone, because they don't listen to reasons.
after Howdy Modi and you know, Namaste,
no, I know.
Thought they were in good relations.
Right. No, I think the policy, the politics of the nation are more pressing, and understandably, and with what is at stake, the elections being at stake, and there is a large amount of population that doesn't understand that immigration is beneficial to the United States, even though history has shown it repeatedly. That, you know, immigrants don't take away jobs. They actually, they increase the number of jobs. They provide jobs. You know, they improve the economy, and that's seen throughout history. But there's a certain section of people who don't see it that way, and that is, everybody has their own opinion about it. So at this point of time, that is what seems to be predominant.
So one last question before I conclude. So as an Indian student perspective, if in case I get deported, so what are the guidelines I should get from Indian Ministry of External Affairs, or because looks like there is a quarantine thing going on, they're not allowing the flights and all these things going on. That will make a student illegal here. If there are no flights, it will make them illegal.
Right. That's the paradox again of the situation, right? You're saying that students should leave, and then there's no flights for them to leave. So how are they going to leave? Are you going to forcibly put them on flights and send them back? So they're obviously, as you said, at least in that regard, there has to be some understanding between the countries as to them accepting their, their students back or whatever it is. I think that will be taken care of. I think the Indian government is doing what it can, because I've been working with the Indian consulate in New York on these repatriation flights, right? So that is happening. A lot of students have already left. A lot of foreign students have left for the summer. I've personally helped quite a few of them. It is hard, but it's getting easier because now Air India has actually opened its booking online. So earlier what was happening is the booking had to be done through the Indian consulate, and they were actually on the ground in the airports doing the ticketing, doing the baggage check, the Indian consulate folks, because Air India didn't have the staff and Air India was pretty much closed. So now I think things have gotten better. So with reference to flights, it's possible to get onto a flight, but not immediately, because the flights are already overbooked. As soon as Air India opened its flights, they were, the system pretty much crashed. First thing is because so many people tried to log in and buy tickets. So yes, as you said, there is going to be a logistical issue. Then I would say for those people purely from the immigration point of view, just file for a change of status to a B2 or a B1, to a visitor's visa. And you'll get some time that way. And it's an online application. It's pretty easy to do. File that, maintain your status, and then, fly back as soon as you can.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really good advice, Prashanthi garu. I think we have one more question from Giri garu. Giri garu, you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, sure, Andy. I just wanted to ask as a follow-up question that I posted on the day one CPT. Basically, the college in itself will allow them to, they attend the classes over the weekends. So technically speaking, it is considered as in-person classes. So does this still affect them, like, attending in-person classes, but still are they still not considered as attending in-person classes?
They are, Giri, because even though they're doing it on the weekend, they're still doing it in person and they're doing it in class. So it doesn't matter that it's not on a weekday and it's on the weekend. I know a lot of people, a lot of universities offer those courses on the weekend for people who are working especially. Some MBAs are just offered only on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. These are mainly for people who are working as well. So there's no issue with that. It is considered to be following the regulation if you're doing in person.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see one last question from Murli garu.
Yes, thanks, ma'am. Prashanthi garu, I have a question. You just mentioned that for adjustment of the status, you mentioned that change it, file a B1 and B2, and then come back it. So in this crisis, once you apply for B1, B2, can the student be in here, or they have to go back again to the home country and then get stamped the B1, B2, and then come back in to maintain the status?
So that's a good question. Basically, you can file a change of status in the country itself. You're asking for your status to be changed from an F1 to a B2. This you're basically doing to gain time. So when you file it online, first of all, nothing is going to happen for another 6 months because they will not process the application. Because as I said, biometrics are needed. It's a new thing for B2s also, biometrics are needed. And the biometrics offices are closed. So you will not get any movement, but we don't care. The only thing we need to do is to file it to maintain status. That's all we care about. We don't care about approval. By the time the approval comes, the time that you have asked for also will be over. So we only have to keep in mind until when we have asked and stay until that time, or file again a change of status to an F1 by that time, or file an extension further on your B2 by that time, right? So B2, you can stay on a B2 for 1 year. So that's a long time. But of course, you may not want to because you cannot work on a B2. You can go to school to a certain extent in the sense that you can, as long as you're not full-time, you can take some courses, but it's very limited as to what you can do on a visitor's visa. So that's a burden for you to stay on a B2 for a prolonged period of time in this country without going to school and without, having any financial support here, right? To take care of things, rent and stuff like that. It might be better off just leaving and then coming back when things, get back into normal. It depends on everyone's situation.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I think we are pretty much done.
I think
Kavita garu wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I think Praveen Mitta is raising a hand.
I have a question, right? This is for the students. If the university decides to be 100% online and the student decides to leave and continue his classes from India, does he have to maintain his full-time status to come back again?
Right. So when you're in India, we don't have to worry about status because luckily, immigration laws don't apply to us when we're outside the country. They only apply to us when we're in the country. We can do whatever we want when we're outside the country. So we don't have to worry about maintaining full-time status, how many courses we're taking, how many credits we're taking. That now is in between you and the university as to what they want you to do, how many courses they need you to take, etc.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when you want to come back, then yes, you have to follow all the rules and regulations pertaining to an F1 student. As per the present regulation that is coming out, they want you to get a revised I-20. The revised I-20 has to clearly state that you, first of all, are going to a university that's offering a hybrid methodology, and second, that the student is actually taking enough courses in person to maintain his F1 status. So, you know, both those things have to be there in the I-20, and the I-20 has to be also updated into CVIS, into their CVIS records. And this applies even to people who are here. And also the CVIS records have to be updated if you change, like somebody was asking in between, what happens if something changes in between my semester? Then you have to update your CVIS with reference to that change. Otherwise, you're considered to be out of status.
Sure. Right. And a follow-up question, right? And if you're in a high, like 100% online school, and the only option, the two options are you have to leave or you have to transfer. When you transfer, are there any guidances regarding how many credits will be transferred over, or it's up to mercy of the university they're transferring to? You could have finished like 40 credits, but they might say, okay, I'm only going to transfer 10 credits. So is there anything, or right?
That's correct. And that continues to be the problem. It depends on the university and how much, you know, leeway they give to the credits that you have received from the previous university. They should be able to transfer all the credits, but it really is on, as you said, the mercy of the accepting university.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome, Pravi.
Sudhir Garu, did you ask your question?
Not yet.
You want to go ahead?
Yes, yes. Hey, Prashanthi Garu. Hey, everyone.
Hi,
so my question is to, I have a couple of questions. Basically, it's not a question. Maybe this is popping up in my mind always. So one thing is asking the international students to come back to the universities and sit in the class when all other local students or the government schools are shut down. But just asking the international students and attend the classes in person, is it not the abuse of universal human rights? The one thing. And the second thing is, it's not just the international students, but when an international student, he has to sit in a class, there has to be a faculty or staff that has to maintain the university or keep the university on its track. So is it not putting all of these other folks also at the health risk? So if absolutely it is. So is there anything, or is there anything which can stop this, or which could stop this?
So Sudhir, that's a good point, and I was talking about that earlier, that it's a public health hazard to force universities to open up and bring students into the classroom. Because, you know, Sudhir, it's not just the foreign students that will be affected, but it'll also be local students, everybody. Because when the universities open up classes, most probably they'll open it up for everyone, because, you know, I don't know if they'll be able to then have some people online, some people in class. They might just want, I don't know how it's going to work. Or maybe they'll just say foreign students come in because you have to, and those who don't have to come in, you can just, you know, watch the class via Zoom or whatever it is. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but yes, you're absolutely right. It is a health risk. And you know why? Part of the reason they're doing it, one of the reason is the administration wants the universities to open up. They've been saying that repeatedly, as if nothing has happened. For the fall, they want everything to be back to normal, no matter how many people die or what happens. And number two, again, the whole anti-immigration policy that has been advocated by the present administration. This is another way of perpetuating that, right? So they're forcing, so they could not do it in any other way. So they're forcing foreign students to leave the country. What better way of doing it? This is the best way to do it. Students don't want to risk their health, right, and their life. Most students will, especially if there's no proper social distancing and they're anxious about being in a closed space with 100 other people, a lot of students will prefer just to go back home and do classes remotely. So this is one way of reducing the immigrant population in this country. So it's it's basically two birds with one stone. So you're taking care of your objective of opening up universities and opening up the economy, even if it's forcibly. And second, you're taking advantage of the situation and making sure that you close the door for foreign students, or make it much more difficult for foreign students to come in or to stay here. So that's what it is.
So, well, I have a follow-up question to it. So, can United Nations, can someone of us represent the United Nations saying that this is obviously abuse of universal human rights? One thing. And second thing is we are all talking about doing the courses online, going back to the country, going back to India, and doing the courses online, completely online. So I myself was a master's student. I'm right now working as a data engineer. But to my knowledge, unless it is a summer semester, you're not allowed to register 100% online courses. Right. Let's say, like, I believe all of the master courses, they usually have 36 credits, and you have to register nine credits at least each semester. That's and correct. Out of these 9 credits, you can register only 3 credits online. Correct. And 6 credits has to be mandatorily in person. So to maintain your service record, I don't think this is possible. Like going back to India for the fall semester and doing it completely online. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
So, if you are wrong, because if you're out of the country, then the immigration rules don't apply to you, as I said. So it doesn't matter where you are, how many courses you're taking, what you're doing, you can do whatever you want. Now it's only between you and your university. US regulations don't apply to you if you're outside the country. You can do whatever you want. So you don't have to worry on that front. If you're outside the country, US laws don't apply to you. They don't apply to you universally. Only if you're on American soil, US laws apply to you. So you don't have to worry about that part, I think. But I think the main, I see basically what you're saying is basically it's unfair. And as I said, the remedy for that is go to court, and which is already happening. And I think we will have some good response. Any reasonable court will immediately overthrow this, stupid regulation, which is, causing a health hazard. So I think let's wait and see what happens in court. I'm hopeful that something positive will happen.
So someone like you or someone like us, someone like the organizations, can we not go and represent it to the United Nations?
Yeah, already they have. Harvard and MIT have already filed a lawsuit. So let's see what happens with that. I'm sure other universities will join in as well. So let's see what happens with the lawsuit.
Right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Prashanthi garu, a question. I mean, for example, if the student goes to India and let's say he's already in India for summer or last spring, he was in India and he was taking now this semester and next semester, he was doing online classes, and he comes back in spring. Hopefully the COVID is over and he comes back in spring. And what are his chances of, but does it affect his OPT or any other status problem? Will he have any problems? Because, there might be issue coming. Will there be an issue, the person coming in? It's always a question because the consulate officer always have a discretion to do all kinds of questions, who knows what else. But if he comes, will they have any issues applying for OPT? Because last two semesters you were out of country and do the online classes.
Right. Good point. We don't know how it will affect OPT if you. So OPT, anyone who does at least a 9 months of study in the US are eligible, minimum, are eligible for 1 year of OPT after that. So in a master's degree, if you do 2 years and you do one semester out of those 2 years, you do it online. And because of COVID, I don't think then a lot of you, again, it depends on which administration is there. If an administration wants to do something, they can do whatever they want. They can change the laws completely, right? But under the existing law, I think if you do enough in-person courses, then you should still be able to get the OPT, which is basically 9 months of coursework. And if we're looking at 2 years of master's program and we're looking at one semester being lost, I think we should still be okay, right? The only thing we need to do is make sure that as soon as the situation becomes normal, come back into the country. Don't just take online courses because you're comfortable doing that. There should be a valid reason for you to be doing that, because there are no in-person classes available. So as soon as in-person classes become available, you have to come back and take them. That's what I would advise to any students that are out there who are out of the country. Don't take advantage of the situation. If you're not able to, then you cannot. But as soon as you're able to, you should.
The issue is like everybody is applied. Everybody wants to do it online because for good reasons, because everybody's health is important, because universities want everybody to be healthy. Students want to be healthy. Parents want to keep their kids healthy. It's a universal problem. Everybody is facing the same thing. At the same time, we have rules for a reason, because they want people to come here only if they want to study, and obviously students want to study too because they want to be in the class and networking and all that thing. So it's a tough situation for everybody. But given the situation, then how does it play out? Whole thing, it will be very difficult for the students to plan. Colleges to
everything plan. Right, Ramgaru. Everything is so uncertain right now. We don't have the answers to all the questions. All we can do is, under the circumstances, do our best. But, thousands of people will be affected in that way then. And also remember, it depends on what's going to happen with the elections. If the present, and also universities have such a big say in this. If people are not allowed to do OPT, then they'll stop coming into the US. They won't come if OPT is removed. There was a proposal to remove OPT, but they decided to avoid doing that. It is part of the pending agenda that the present administration have remove OPT. But they had faced such a hue and cry from the universities that they had to back down. So all these other factors are there, which in a way reassures us that, and there are thousands of people affected, right? So when that's going to happen, then they have to think really, really carefully before they take such a drastic step and say that people who did one semester online are now not eligible for OPT. That's going to be thousands, everybody, all the foreign students, right? Either it affects everyone or it doesn't affect anyone.
Right.
So I am hoping that, first of all, because of if the elections happen, we don't know what the results will be. But if there is a new administration, we're hoping that they will be more considerate towards immigrants. If the present administration continues, then again, we have the courts and we can fight. Nothing is, the president does not have supreme powers to change the laws, right? There is the courts, there's the legislative bodies. So I wouldn't lose hope and presume the worst. But I can't answer your question as to what exactly will happen. We don't know, but I'm just presuming that it should not affect OPT, because then a majority of students will be affected. That is my reasoning.
Okay. Another thing is like some of the universities, like for example, today USC said they're gonna allow international students to have in-person courses so that they can maintain their status. I'm sure more universities will do that because so that they can follow the administration's guidelines. So I don't know.
I think Ram Garu, what will happen is they will add courses. As I was saying earlier, there are issues even for the hybrid system. The students have already selected their courses. Now it might happen that the courses that they selected are all online. And now even if they want to change their courses, they cannot because those courses have been taken up. Because some courses are in high demand, and if you don't select them ahead of time, they get taken up. So I think universities will just add courses or add classes, more classes they will do something. They will add more classes that are in person, small classes just for foreign students, practice social distancing. As long as, I know you're saying health concerns, but as long as they're practicing social distancing and they're doing what CDC tells them to do, I think we're all fine going in. I would send I'm in New York City. I would send my son to school. He's in a public school. As long as, CDC tells me it's fine and they're practicing that social distancing. So I think most other parents would think the same as long as reasonable measures are taken and precautions are taken. So I think all this will sort itself out.
Yeah, thank you, Prashanthi Garu. I think lot of great advice, and I think you're providing a lot of good hope that there is going to be a green light at the end of this tunnel. It's just a matter of few months or maybe a year. So thank you for giving all of us that hope. Kavita Garu, you want to ask a question and wrap up?
Yeah, just I have a question can the private companies like Google and MS that have F1 students that became the CEOs, can we approach them to get involved as the focus is mostly on H1 numbers?
Kavita Garu, I couldn't hear you in the beginning. So can you repeat your question?
Can the private companies like Google and MS, they have F1 students that became the CEOs, can we approach them to get involved? Because their focus is more on H1 numbers, usually.
Right. But also a big source for them is students.
Yeah.
There's a huge population of students that, as you said, that work as interns and also work on OPT and CPT. So I think the universities are the big conglomerates and the big companies are involved as well. They have not as yet filed a lawsuit, but I mean, they are not directly affected, so maybe they are not a good party to file. I think universities are the best plaintiffs here. They are the best parties to file. So I think we should let the universities resolve this rather than approaching the companies at this point for the students.
Okay. Can we petition for an additional OPT when students are forced to be not able to take in-person classes?
As I was saying earlier, Ram Garu also was asking about OPT and whether OPT will be affected because they are not doing the classes in person. We don't know, but I'm thinking most probably it won't be because that will be a big blow again to the student population and to universities as well. So I think, again, if something like that happens, if the present administration is still there by next year, if that happens, again, we have to go to court and we have to fight it out. And it's against public policy to have laws like that. So I think any courts will be sympathetic because courts always look at public policy and the benefit, that it has to the public.
Yeah. Are there any other visas other than H-1B that students in masters can apply as a requirement for H-1Bs for a bachelor degree, right?
So one thing that is often forgotten is the O visa. It is possible to apply for an O visa in place of a H1, but you have to be a person of it says extraordinary ability, but it doesn't have to be extraordinary ability, but of a higher ability. So if someone is there who is, received some awards, who has, somehow been on the dean's list or has done some activity in school or has done some work, special work, and has been recognized, it's possible for that person to get an O and file for an O. It's easier than you think to file for an O. But of course, it cannot be in place of H1s, but it's definitely an option for some people. The O visa can be further looked into. And of course, you have the TN, you have the L visa, you have the E2 if you're coming from Australia, Indian nationals from Australia. And if you're from Canada or Mexico, you have the TN, which are much easier visas to get into. So a lot of people actually file Canadian immigration and then apply for a TN and then come in on a TN. And because that's much easier, and Canadian immigration is also much easier to get. So that's also another option to think about. If you have repeatedly filed for a H and you have not been selected in the CAP, a lot of people are just moving to Canada, staying there, applying for their landing permit, and then coming on a TN.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's like more than like close to 1.5 hours the session is. And just want to say the new proclamation has significantly disrupted Americans and livelihoods and immigrants since March 2020. And businesses and their workers have faced extensive disruptions during this COVID thing. Unemployment in US also nearly quadrupled, and producing some of the most extreme unemployment things. And this session, like what we're giving the advice to all the students, is very helpful. It's a great community service. And thank you for giving your time and helping on all these issues. And we are not going to stop here. We are going to call you back as for more sessions. There are many students and universities, because it's a weekday, couldn't reach like a little bit more. So for the next session, we're going to reach all these universities, and we can reach out the actual people who really need this support system. Right. And truly appreciate Prashanthi for your like a weekday time, spending time with us with the TDF USA. And just want to let you all know she's the TDF USA National Committee co-chair for the legal committee. And we truly appreciate your services. And Ram, you spoke to just now, is the chairman for the TDF USA. And there are a lot of TDF people in this call and many more. And really appreciate and thank you. If Ram, you want to say something, you can go ahead and say. Once again, thank you, Prashanthi, for all your time.
Thank you, Kavita Garu, for having me.
Thank you, Prashanthi Garu, for doing this. And also, this is broadcasted through Facebook Live and YouTube. So I'm sure this information will be seen by many more people. Even last sessions, they were asking about the YouTube link or something recorded or not. So I'm sure this message will reach more people than we think on this thing, hopefully. So this will help a lot of people, students, especially students. People are just struggling. Trying to understand the whole situation, given the huge things and politics and health emergencies, pandemic, everything is, nobody knows complete answers, but we're trying to do our best and try to help the community whatever the way we can. Thank you for being there and for the community and helping the community in this need of the hour. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and there is one thing I think in the chat, they're requesting like one last question. Is it like who is it? Is it Vilas from Telugu NRI?
Yes, Kavita. Thank you.
Vilas is helping us with the YouTube link today, and Vilas is from Telugu NRI Radio, and he's like in our TDF USA media co-chair, and he's been helping us without me asking, he reaches out to me and tries to help. And thank you, Vilas, for all the YouTube link. And this is the first time we did a Facebook Live and YouTube link. So that's why the starting a little bit delayed happened, and extremely sorry for that. But I want more people to have this information. That's why I was trying my best. Vilas, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Kavita Garu. Under your presidentship, it is more encouragement. All the chapters are very enthusiasm to working. And thank you, Prashanthi Reddy Garu. You are giving a lot of information, and it is very helpful to the community. In Telugu NRI Radio YouTube, one question came from Surya Rao. I am Surya. I have I-140 approved. Currently in Hyderabad, India. As came for a short trip. I currently 221G. Can I plan to come back to US sometime in future with my I-140?
Yes, absolutely. Now, unfortunately, as we was talking about the presidential proclamation that affects, the H's, L's, and J's, if he was out of the country at that time, which I think he was, and if he did not have a valid visa at that time, then he is one of those people, unfortunate victims of this proclamation. And that is the worst population that was affected, because these are people who are settled here, have houses here, children, their spouses are here, and they just went for a vacation and got stuck. They went to extend their visas, got stuck, and now they don't know when they can again meet their family or go back to their jobs. I think they are the most pathetic group of people that that have been affected by this whole thing. People who have not come as yet, they are not as affected. Yes, their plans are disrupted, but people like this, unfortunately. So I would say that you have to wait until December 30th, and hopefully it is not extended further beyond that. Again, if the present administration is there, it might be. But if it is extended further, again, people are going to go to court. Already, by the way, if you are interested in filing a lawsuit, please contact me, because I'm in touch with an attorney who is seeking families that are affected by this. It is not expensive, very inexpensive. So if you want to be one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit because it is affecting you, please contact me and I can put you in touch with the group of people that are filing a lawsuit against this proclamation. Also, Kavita Garu, if you know anyone, you can spread the word as well. Yeah. It is mainly, the lawsuit is being filed for only Indian nationals, because they're saying that Indian nationals are affected much, much more than anybody else. So it's, there is no equality there. So the, right to equality is being terminated there. So Indian nationals, whoever is affected by this, H's, L's, J1s, by the presidential proclamation, the second presidential proclamation, if they want to file a lawsuit to seek some relief, you can contact Kavita Garu and she'll contact me.
Okay, thank you, Prashanthi Garu. And Vamshi, he also raised hand. Just few more minutes. Vamshi, can you go?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, hi, Prashanthi Garu. Actually, this is about my friend. Actually, his H1B has been approved in consular processing. Currently, he's on a student visa. So, is there any possibility for the change of status will be done in the US for the consular approved H1Bs?
So, did he not file a change of status? If he filed a change of status, like most people do, from an F1 to H1, they are not affected at all.
Okay, actually,
it is only if you file even if you file consular processing, you are not affected, because remember, you are not outside the country at the time of the proclamation.
Okay.
You're in the country, so it doesn't affect you. You can go get your visa and come back in.
Okay, actually,
so it does not affect cap cases at all.
Okay, actually, in this pandemic situation, what he wants to do is that he is planning to apply for a change of status here in the US itself for his consular process approved H1B petition.
So I'm not sure why he did not file for a change of status initially. He should have just filed for a change of status.
Yeah, initially because he was in a day one CPT school.
So he was worried about the H1 getting approved.
Yes.
So he decided to file for a change of status. I mean, for consular processing.
Yes, exactly. So now he wants to get into the change of status.
Unfortunately, you cannot file. You can try maybe to file an amended petition for change of status.
Okay.
But that's a gray area because once your case is already approved for consular processing, it's already approved. So you have to go outside the country and come back in.
Okay.
Which you can, as long as the consulates are open and flights are open.
Okay. Yeah.
But you can try filing for an amendment and see if that works.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it, right? Anybody no more? I don't see any questions, but yeah, thanks, Prashanthi, and we'll be I think YouTube link also is there. Vilas is having that recorded, I guess. And also we have the Facebook Live. And if anybody has anything, we will share this wonderful informative session. This is and a lot of different types of questions we have today, not only on this, even H1 and everything. So, and Ram shared that Facebook Live link in the chat window. If you want, you guys can copy that. And we will also be sharing in all the TDF groups which we shared today morning. And definitely, Prashanthi, thank you so much for the great community service you're doing for us, and especially for the TDF family. And we really appreciate all. This is not going away. We are going to keep continuing, and we want everybody to happy and safe, like have a safe, stay safe. Basically, I think you'll become like being in touch with all the people like coming to you and all. So, and your message, the last message, filing the claims and stuff, definitely I will pass on. And if anybody reaches out to me, also I will let you know. I have your email address and your website information as well. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita Garu.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be signing off.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
You want to stay for 1 second? I'll take a group photo.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much, all TDF members, and especially Kavita Garu and Prashanthi.
Yeah.
Ram Garu, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vilas. Papa, you reached out to me and then you did on YouTube.
Yeah.
That helped a lot also, people who can't get in.
Sure. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Somebody is in now joining, I don't know. Let me see who it is. Hi, Raghu at Ivar. Ippude join aitunnadu. Hello, Raghu.
Sorry. Oh.
Hello, Raghu garu.
Cheppandi, Kavita garu.
Yeah, ippude meer join ayinattunnara. Drop ayi join ayyara, ippudu join aitunnara.
నేను వేరే నాది కాల్ నడుస్తా అంటే ఇప్పుడు వచ్చి అయిపోయినట్టుంది కదా.
ఇప్పుడు అయిపోయింది. మీరేనా ఇప్పుడు పవన్?
కాదు.
ఓకే. Yeah, we'll share. ఇప్పుడే అయిపోయిందండి కాల్. So we'll share the YouTube links and the Facebook links.
Thank you
for joining the call. Yeah. Thanks, Vinay.
Thank you, Andy. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Bye, Ram. Thank you. Everybody.
Hi, it's me, Madhavi Lata. Please subscribe to GNN TV.